Thank you for clicking Dr. Samurai channel. In this video, I would like to discuss, does Boston Marathon bomber Johar Tsarnaev deserve death penalty or not, based upon his difference from his brother Tamerlan Tsarnaev. My name is Dr. Samurai, and I'm hoping this video would deepen your understanding of today's social problems for you to attain true happiness on this planet Earth. As usual, I would like to provide you some basic information first, and then like to move on to our main discussions in the latter half. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. Boston Marathon bombing. It happened April of 2013. Killed 3 people, injured almost 300 people, 17 of whom lost their limbs. 3 days after 13th, which is 18th of April, the 2 brothers assaulted a police officer to steal his gun, and the police officer was shot and later died. But they could not remove the gun from the police officer. And on 19th, which is 4 days after, in Watertown, Tamerlan, the older brother, exchanged fires with the police officers and gunned down to death. And his younger brother drove away, allegedly ran over his brother's body and hid in a parked boat. According to the owner, a man was lying inside the boat in a pool of blood. After a brief fire exchanges, the younger brother, Johar Tsarnaev, was arrested at 8:42, deeply wounded by the gunshot by the police. This is pretty much the general information about what happened regarding the Boston Marathon bombing. If you like this kind of discussions, please click up the green and the yellow Good Luck Charm logo. Let me get back. I would like to discuss whether the life of Johar should be saved or not. While he was hiding in the boat, he left his message regarding why they did this bombing. It said bombings were retribution for U.S. military action in Afghanistan and Iraq. And they were especially infuriated about the fact that so many innocent victims were killed by the U.S. military action and just called collateral damage. So, in the same way, they killed the American people participating in the Boston Marathon and called them collateral damage. So, Johar says it was a pure retribution to what the U.S. did in Muslim countries. Here's value 1. The personality of older brother Tamerlan is considered to be very typical of suicide bombers. The family moved from country to country before they came to the United States, starting from Chechnya, then to Kyrgyzstan, and so on. And as is often the case with the many immigrant families, especially Muslim families, after the family came to the United States, the parents placed high expectations on the first boy, Tamaran, out of 4 kids. Younger 2 were girls. And he was a great boxer at the level that he could almost fight in the Olympics, but because of his nationality problem, he could not fight for the United States. So after his dream was over, he started to do business, including dealing in drugs and so on. And then into the radicalization in Islam. So the dynamics is like this. So many moving during the childhood deprived him of chances to make friends with the kids he met on the way. So, Tamerlan was psychologically lonely all the way. Then he came to the United States. Parents pressed him to be successful in boxing. That was the only way to live happily with his family. But it dead-ended, partly because of his ability, but partly because of that nationality problem. So there's no place for Tamerlan within his family anymore, because parents were disappointed. And then he get into society, starting his own business, including drug. But in the society, he started to recognize he was not regarded as an American, but more like Muslim, and discriminated, exactly as he couldn't fight for the United States in the boxing. So there's no niche in his family, no niche in the society. And fundamental Islam teachings provides the only exit from these hardships he was deeply in American society. Islam fundamentalism promised to save those like Tamerlan out of the hardship they are in, and by committing the act of jihad, he could have a wonderful life in the next life, which is the real goal of human beings. So, pressed, no place, and no place, and there's the only one exit that leads to the happy next life. In case of Tamerlan, it was more simple psychologically. He was probably prepared for death, even in the act of bombing. So that's probably why he was the first one to get killed. Tamerlan's preparation for death can be confirmed from his act of getting out of the Mercedes and immediately opening the fire on police officers with no guard. But Johar, the younger brother, the case is a little bit different. In a nutshell, it was a mixture of suicide bomber psychology and also highly narcissistic personality, which could be hidden psychopathy, highly likely. The reason is that, as he wrote the message on the wall of the boat, he said he was following his brother's act. So that part covers part of his psychology is the same as Tamerlane's. However, according to Ryan Broderick, his article, this is Johar Tsarnaev's actual Twitter account written for BuzzFeed News Online. There's Johar's picture, and Johar clearly says, "I'm a stress-free kind of guy." This was uploaded on the 17th, which is 2 days after the bombing. He admitted it, and also there was this security camera records that he bought a milk right after the bombing on the very same day, as if nothing had happened. And he even uploaded this gentleman covering his girlfriend, who is allegedly dead at the time. And he goes, this man was going to propose to his girlfriend. She was at the marathon in Boston. Man heard what had happened. He rushed over there. He found his love dead. If you really care, repost and tag to pray for Boston. From this message, knowing that he was the perpetrator, it was clearly malicious, which could even be said to be sadistic. And he also goes, ain't no love in the heart of the city. Stay safe, people. He says this even after the bombing. And as some of you might have seen, after he was caught, he was doing a F sign by his hand at the security camera in his cell. Also, years after, in courtroom, he allegedly said apology to the victim's family and the victim for what they did. But those family who was there, courtroom, clearly said nothing got across to our heart, which means he didn't mean it. He just said it to save his own life. So what I'm saying here regarding the difference between Tamerlan and Johar is Tamerlan was ready to die, simply, representing the typical mentality of mass murderers, while Johar, although saying he was following his older brother and did it as a retribution to what America did, there is the other half of Johar who is clearly lack of empathy, regret, and even sadistic. And it is also alleged that although he seemed to have been popular with his friends, all those relationships were very shallow and superficial. And looking into his childhood backgrounds, the difference is because Tamerlan was their first boy, parents put a high expectation on Tamerlan. He was the center of their attention, while Johar was out of the parents' attention compared with Tamerlan. So he behaved as an ideal boy, probably to attract the parents' attention, which he couldn't have enough of. But there was also dynamics that he must follow what the Tamerlan is doing as the second boy. So, and what is crucial, what is highly crucial, is both his mother and father, who were later divorced, flatly deny their kids' involvement in the Boston Marathon bombing itself. Mother was saying, I'm his mother, and I know him, and he didn't do it, clearly. And his father says, it's not them who initiated it. They must have been controlled by others or something. They clearly denies what the kids had already admitted, the commission of the marathon bombing. This means both his parents do not face their kids, especially in case of Johar, which is highly similar to Mr. Eric Harris' case of Columbine High shooting. His high school friends, the parents, were pointing out Eric's parents were emotionally distant from Eric. This kind of emotional distance causes to block emotional development. So, what I'm saying here is weaker parental pressure plus no direct emotional communication with Johar could have caused a certain level of psychopathy or at least a high level of narcissism. So, Tamerlan was, in my speculation, quintessential example of mass murderer psychology, while Johar is showing mass murderous traits and psychopathic traits by 50%, and which could be possible seeing his childhood environment by his parents, who were both emotionally distant from him. So he acted like a perfectly good boy to attract attentions back to him. When they divorced before 20, he lost that rail and he went off on his natural path. That is why he is still attempting to avoid death penalty by using his lawyer, which is a big difference from Tamerlan's readiness to die. And one other thing is this case of Tamerlan and Johar is very similar to Ken and Burby serial murder case, in which Ms. Karla Homolka was already released from prison, saying that he was manipulated by Mr. Paul Bernard to get along with his murderous acts, while it is highly possible that Ms. Karla Homolka had the same level of, or could be even higher level of aggression inside. And she just was just using Mr. Bernard to let her anger out. Paul was the ringleader, and Karla seems to be the follower, but actually she was not just forced to do it. She was willing to do it on her own aggression. this Tamerlan and Johor's case is like that, I speculate. Although he says he just followed the older brother Tamerlan, whom he highly respected, but he had his own darkness that comes from his childhood backgrounds of not having opportunity to develop full emotions. This is pretty much it. So it is all up to the judgment by the legal system. But the only thing I can say, based upon my speculation, is very highly likely he is not feeling a bit guilty over his act. And he is just saying good things to avoid death penalty. In a nutshell, he is a murderer with his own conviction and anger. This is my solid speculation. That is it. Please have a peaceful days. Up until next time, wherever you are, my friend, on this same planet Earth. Okay, bye-bye now.